what happened over the weekend was intentional. It wasn't a campaign event. It wasn't, as a Republican candidate, especially somebody like Trump, who's despised in New York, you don't have a campaign event in a state that you're going to lose by 25 or 30 points or more. You do it to remind people of the past and to fire up their voters, and to foment hate, and that's what we saw. Any comments on any of that, Erica?
Um, I think the thing is,
Oh, by the way, we are streaming live on YouTube, so if you have a chance, head on over there, subscribe to our channel, make a comment, like, share. Thank you. Sorry.
oh, I think the thing is, so I know early on, they had the comedian
Yeah.
on who talked about Puerto Rico being a floating garbage island or something in the and
Correct.
and and even the Republicans have had to distance themselves from that.
Correct.
Republicans who have a large number of Puerto Rican constituents themselves have talked about how disgusting that particular comment was. And this is the thing. If the people that support you and the people that are willing to come and speak at your rallies are people who you have to apologize for after they've spoken because the stuff they say is so repellent, what does that say about you as a party and the people that are supporting you?
It's a really good point. But yeah, the comment was, garbage can. I mean, and Trump has shared the same sentiment, referring to the United States as a garbage can. And then, of course, soon thereafter, not only like you just described, Republicans within the party coming out and trying to distance themselves, but now you get a lot of nationally recognized Puerto Ricans, including Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote Hamilton, and J-Lo and Bad Bunny, who have tens of millions of followers on their socials, have all come out in support of Kamala Harris. So again, this is not a campaign event. This is desperation from a candidate who knows that he's losing and is just using it to fire up his base and to allow something bad to happen post-election day. There can be no other justification and or reason. So, yeah.
I think there's also an argument. So the Trump campaign, I understand, have come out and said that that's not Donald Trump's opinion. That's the opinion of this person.
Right.
They didn't apologize, though. They didn't say, we're really sorry this happened at our rally. They said Donald Trump doesn't agree with this. I've never seen Donald Trump apologize for anything ever.
No.
Ever.
No. No. And I think that's kind of the point. When you add everything up, so everybody on the right tends to want to say, well, John Kelly was a disgruntled former employee, or Mark Milley was a rhino, or, you can't compare poisoning the blood to anything in the past, or vermin or anything to the past. When you add it all up, I mean, individually, those things are bad enough, but when you add them all up, it is absolute Yahtzee rhetoric.
Y-
In our,
And
our
I,
history. I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I was going to say, and I don't even feel like even if you're so historically unaware to not realize that that's what went on, just the fact that you are using the same rhetoric as those people used, even if you didn't know they used it, it still shows who you are and what kind of person you are.
Yeah, so just again, from a history perspective, everybody, please keep tapping and sharing. We appreciate y'all very much. So on the evening of February 20th, 1939, the marquee of New York's Madison Square Garden was lit up with the evening's main event, quote, a pro-America rally. The organizers had chosen the date in celebration of George Washington's birthday and had produced a 30-foot tall banner of America's first president for the stage. More than 20,000 men and women streamed inside and took their seats. 20,000 white men and women streamed inside and took their seats. The view was stunning. Washington was hung between American flags and the symbol of Yahtzee, Germany. The rally was sponsored by the German-American Bund, an organization with headquarters in Manhattan and thousands of members across the U.S. In the 1930s, the Bund was one of several organizations in the U.S. that were openly supportive of Schmittler and the rise of fascism in Europe. They had parades, bookstores, and summer camps for youth. Their vision for America was a cocktail of white supremacy, fascist ideology, and American patriotism. At Madison Square Garden, the rally opened with a pledge of allegiance to the American flag. The mood was jubilant. Attendees wore Yahtzee armbands, waved American flags, and held aloft posters with slogans like "Stop Jewish Domination of Christian America." There were stormtroopers in the aisles, their uniforms almost identical to those of Yahtzee Germany. It looked like any political rally, only with a Yahtzee twist, said Arnie Bernstein, author of Yahtzee Symbol Nation. Fast forward to this weekend, and that's exactly what we saw. Exactly what we saw. So we have a choice to make for those people, and this is a call to the left in particular, because we know what MAGA is going to do, but there are people on the left that are, you're all up in your feelings that Kamala Harris isn't progressive enough for you, or you don't like her stance on Israel-Palestine, or you're tired of the machine. Okay. You would prefer to have a fascist government? You would prefer to have that level of hate and rhetoric? You would prefer to have the rights of the people that you claim to care about taken away? I don't know. Seems pretty obvious to me. What's at stake?
And even if your vote for him is because you think he's anti-elite, he is the picture of an elite person.
Exactly.
Not elite in any respectable way, not academically elite or physically elite, but monetarily, he has grown up with a golden spoon in his mouth.
Correct. Everyone, please keep tapping and sharing. Thank you very much for being here. Hi, Alex. How are you today? Alex? Alex? Alex is asleep. Good way to start. I'm 11 minutes in and I'm boring people already. Good morning, Sammy. How are you today?
Good morning. I just want to say fuck Dr. Phil and everything that you teach me on your live. I spread the word. I teach my baby brother who's only going to be, this is his first year to vote. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for all your time, all your effort, everything that you put out into this live. You're an amazing creator, and I really do appreciate everything that you do. I know that you got to keep your live open, and I'm in my truck, and I want to be able to hear what you're saying. I turn the volume down so I don't echo. So hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for all you do. You're a beautiful human.
Thank you, Sammy. I appreciate you saying that. You have a lovely day. Thanks a lot.
I agree. Isn't he a beautiful human? He's looking very handsome today.
Thank you very much. You're looking lovely yourself today.
Oh.
I want to, there's a couple other things that I want to just sort of touch on that I think are really, really important. Specifically, it's about American history, because if we can look back, actually, there's elements in our history that Schmittler idolized, Jim Crow laws in particular. He really liked how we segregated by race. And that was part of their model for what they did, only, of course, they went so much more extreme. So we can't, I've said this publicly and I'll say it again. It's people who look like me who created the system that we're in. It's people who look like me, white men in particular, who built the country founded on slavery and white supremacy, who built capitalism, who built the entire system to favor people who look like me. So therefore, I stand 10 toes down calling out other white men to do the same and push back against it and be in your circles and remind people of what's at stake here. I mean, this image should tell you everything. You say you would do anything for your daughters, then prove it. It should be that simple. Then prove it. That's all I ask. Prove it. Man up. Man the fuck up. James, how are you today? James.
I'm well. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I actually came up because I have a bit of a historical perspective to put on this too. These past few years, I've been doing a lot of studying, especially into the histories of marginalized groups in this country, And with Donald Trump's current rhetoric of mass deportation, that did scare me, because I knew that in 1929, after the fall of the stock market from 1929 to 1935, there were 6 years of mass deportations called repatriation raids. First of all, after the fall of the stock market, that's when this kind of rhetoric began that the Mexican immigrants were stealing our jobs and eating our welfare. They were blamed largely for the fall of the stock market back then. And like I said, from 1929 to 1935, there was what was called repatriation raids, where police were told to go to areas largely populated by brown people, and it was the biggest repatriation raid, and it was in Los Angeles. And they were actually on record saying to round up anybody that, quote, looked brown. And if they didn't have their immigration paperwork on their person, they were immediately loaded up onto trains and deported deep into Mexico. Most of them were not able to ever come back. As of 2022, the numbers, I believe, were about 60% of the people that were, and there was 2 million over 6 years. About 60% of that 2 million was actually here legally. Some of them U.S. citizens, others not even Mexican immigrants, just other brown people.
Yeah, sorry, James. Get a little bit of an echo there. I appreciate what you're saying. I think, again, like we talk about, history has a way of repeating itself, and we see it everywhere. I appreciate you jumping in this morning, James. Thanks for that reminder about history. I really appreciate you, sir. You have a good day, okay?
Not a problem. You too.
Thank you. He brings up a really, really good point, because, again, it's the similar types of rhetoric, right? I mean, we talk about, if you think about, again, we're connecting the dots here, right? For those of us who've been watching this sort of evolution or devolution of our American way of life based on fascism and Trumpism and MAGA and everything else, when people decided they were going to vote for Donald Trump in 2016, you could make the argument. I'm like, I got it. I think I understood it. People said, they felt disenfranchised by their government. They wanted to try something new. The issue is that back then it was about something new. Hey, it's a businessman. I want him to upend the system. I don't believe in the government and those guys. But that's the problem. So you bought into it, much like any type of propaganda, much like any type of rhetoric, much like any type of messaging. You bought in, and once you're in, you're in. And now we see it. Now you're using symbolism that reminds us of 1930s Germany. Now you're seeing these rallies with one intention and one intention only: to remind people that we are the party of extremism, we are the party of hate, we are the party of vitriol, we are the party of fascism and racism and segregation and all those kinds of things. And that's what you've got. And you can't defend it. So what you see is this, well, we have to go after a black woman because she's long-winded, and because you accuse her of speaking in word salad. Again,
and because she laughs. How
exactly,
dare she?
Exactly. Again, she has to be flawless while he can be lawless. And
Such a good quote. So, like, that sums it up perfectly. Ben is in the requests, I believe, and would like to come up for a couple of minutes.
We're all about to get smarter. Good morning, Professor.
Yeah, I just want to push back a little bit on the idea that, you could make the argument in 2016 that it was about these other things. I think on the surface, people tried to make that argument, but remember, I published 4 papers on his rise to power.
Yeah, you know what I mean, though, right?
Racism, though, was always at the root. Like, we interview people with less than a high school education all the way up to a master's degree, and racism was always there.
True.
Like, the more educated people, it was more implicit and coded and hidden. But like it was always there. Like at the Jacksonville rally, we had somebody say that that Hillary was going to continue Obama's like Sharia law that he had instituted, right? Like,
that's a good point.
you know, it was always about race, right? We thought we were going to find a lot of sexism in that, and there was only one paper that we ended up publishing because there was just not enough to do more than that with that, and that's the Bitchifying Hillary paper. All three of the other papers we published showed that racism was the main driver for support of Trump.
Yeah, and now now they're having to defend the blatant Yahtzee rhetoric, right? Yeah. So it's one thing. Yeah, of course, you're right. You're right. I think I misspoke about the point that I was trying to make, but you're absolutely right about that. It's always been there. Like we know, first of all, that white supremacy has always existed, racism's always existed, all the various phobias and the isms that they have always existed, and when you're the president, you get the biggest platform and microphone in the world.
Yeah.
And then it becomes safe for all the bigots and the racists and the transphobes, homophobes, everybody else to just say what they think out loud. They don't have to say it
because you got to remember too,
undercover anymore.
You know, people like David Duke and Richard Spencer and Stormfront were all pushing for him to win the nomination, and then celebrating the fact that he won the nomination, then celebrating the fact that they voted for him, right? So. Yeah, that would be the only thing. Like, I knew what you meant, but I wanted to make it clear to anybody listening that, like, this has always been a part of that. So
yeah, it's a really good point. I appreciate that. Again, we all got smarter when Professor shows up.
All right, I'm going to drop back down.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Bye, Ben.
And again, I think and I don't want to spend all morning talking about this because I know it's triggering for a lot of people, but we can't ignore the fact that this is what we're facing in 8 days. Now, I want politics to be boring again. I mean, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want politics to just be literally boring, right? This rhetoric, I want to be careful how I say this, but it's become accepted. It's become like part of the day-to-day. It's become this series of one trope after another, and then you get these symbols, and then you get this hatred, and then you get people in New York going to this rally without even understanding history. They just think it's a campaign event, but everybody else pulling the strings knows exactly what it is, and that's the worst part about it. Their history is repeating itself if we do not vote like crazy, and we'll get into some early voting stats in just a second. Good morning, Stephen. How are you today? Steven?
Sorry, I think I might have accidentally clicked, but I want to let everybody know that early voting is available in a little suburb right outside of Philadelphia called Collingswood, New Jersey. I think it's for all of Camden County in New Jersey. I am from that area, and I voted yesterday, so I'm very proud of that. I just wanted to get that out there that is available. Everybody should go do that.
I appreciate that, Stephen. Good call. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you.
Love your lives. Love everybody who does political stuff on here. Keep doing what you're doing. Love you.
Thank you very much. See you later.
Bye, Stephen.
So we can jump into that a little bit. So as we know, the early voting has been pretty intense, and there's a website. It's called Target Early, targetearly.targetsmart.com. The link is in the link tree. That is in our Discord. So this is as of this morning. So far. Nearly 54% of all early votes cast have been by women, compared to 44.7% by men. And then when you break it down by state, and I think this is really, and I'm just starting to get used to this graph. There's a lot of information on here, and as a person who loves this kind of shit, I could go all in on this every single day. Pennsylvania, again, this entire election comes down to Pennsylvania, and it's a 2-to-1 margin, votes cast by party and by gender. So not by gender, but so it's 55.9%. So nearly 56% of all early and absentee votes cast in Pennsylvania have been by women, compared to 43% by men. The breakdown when it comes to party affiliation, it's 2-to-1. So she's building a nearly 400,000 vote lead going into election day. So yes, Republicans tend to vote day of. We've seen that historically, but there's been a different shift this year. So yes, Republicans are turning out in person, but so are Democrats turning out in person. So when you build up a lead that big, I don't know. I don't know. There's no draw from the Republican Party to attract new voters. They're certainly not winning with women. The margins are getting wider and wider and wider. There's no message to other marginalized groups. Listen, when you insult Puerto Ricans, an entire nation of people, by the way, who are U.S. citizens, what are you doing? So it's just rallying your base. That's all he's got left. Their entire campaign is meant to just draw as many of their voters to the polls as possible. You can't win that way. You can't.
Yeah. And I want to push back on somebody in the comments for saying Republican voters tend to vote on the day. Actually, Trump has been encouraging them at recent rallies to vote by mail-in and to vote early.
Yeah. All over his
And
Truth Social page. It's literally all over his Truth Social page about vote early, vote early, vote early. It's crazy.
yeah, and secondly, I think this is really important. Early voting numbers and postal voting numbers, we cannot compare this election to 2020 in terms of early voting and postal voting, because there was a pandemic in 2020. So there were a whole ton of people who unusually for them voted early and voted by mail. It's much better to compare this one to 2016 in terms of numbers that way.
That's correct. So again, from a party affiliation, so this is by a modeled party. So Democrat early votes in Pennsylvania account for as of yesterday, 763,860 compared to 407,579. So we're pushing 400,000 votes based on a party affiliation. And we do know that there are a lot of Republicans who are either not going to vote for a president or have shifted their vote to Kamala Harris. Now, again, not every group we know are monoliths. We know that not every woman's going to vote for Trump's or Harris. I don't know why, but so we know that there are some Dems that may decide to vote for Trump, but I think the percentages are going to be significantly different. And again, with margins so small in certain states, it's pretty obvious that lead that she's building in Pennsylvania, especially when you look at the gender breakdown. So again, nearly 60% of the votes cast have been by women in Pennsylvania with a 400,000 vote lead. That's the ball game. Pennsylvania is the ball game. So when we cover our elections, I'll use this as a little reminder, starting on 8 a.m. on election day, we're going to be going until the polls close, past when the polls close. Myself, along with our friend Danny, our friend Dirty Dan, and our friend Pickles, we're going to be going all day long. So we'll be jumping back and forth into each other's lives all day as we track this. So we'll be having some special guests join us for coverage. We're going to be playing bingo over the course of the day. So we'll be doing more announcements on that coming up. But these are the kinds of things we'll be tracking. Obviously, people are taking this election seriously, and it's good to see that. I don't know what else to say other than what we saw over the weekend is the Trump America. That's what they want. And even if you're not a big fan of Democrats, because there's lots of things to criticize regarding the Democratic Party, for sure, and I've been very vocal about that, and I will continue to be vocal. But is that what you want? Is really that what you want? Really?
Can I do a couple of mod announcements,
Please,
Steve?
Please.
Perfect. So guys, welcome to Fact Still Matters Live. There are 600-ish of you in here right now. We would love it if you could tap the screen and share the live. We are currently at 56.4k likes. We would love to get up to 100k as soon as we possibly can. The more you tap, the more we are likely to get onto that FYP. Don't forget, there are tons of ways that you can interact with the live. You can subscribe to the channel. There is a subscribe star in the bottom left hand corner down there. If you select that, you can look at the subscription options. Subscriptions include things like being able to use some great emotes in the comments, and also 10% off in Facts Store. Not that I have any interest in Facts Store whatsoever. I just look after it. If you go to his link tree, you can find the link to the Fact Store. Even if you don't want to subscribe, go and have a look at the merch. We've got the hashtag Liberal Scum shirt, the recent hashtag Girl Dad shirt, and weirdly the banana hammock shirt not sold anything, which is bizarre. You could also check in and become part of the team. You do that at the top of the screen using the little heart next to Fax's name. Don't forget, you can also join his Discord. Links to that all in the bio.
Thank you. And no, it does not say Trump. It says Triumph Motorcycles, and I wore this in honor of our British guest today, since Triumph is a British.
Oh, thank you. My dad used to have a Triumph.
I used to have a
I think
Triumph.
he had several, actually.
And I'd love to have one again, but they can be pesky to work on. I'll leave it right there. They're not condescending. They're just British.
They are not condescending. They are just British. Shirt available in my bio.
That's right. Good morning, Carlos. How are you today? Carlos? Carlos, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
How are you today?
Good.
What's on your mind today?
No, it's everything is a mess, but I cannot vote. But yeah, um, I like Kamala.
Kamala?
Yes,
Have you voted
but
yet?
I mean, huh?
Have you voted yet?
No, I cannot vote. I
Are
cannot
you
vote.
you're not an American citizen?
No,
Okay. What was the
I
purpose?
don't know how I got to your life, but I pressed something. I not even know how to work this phone, but well, I yeah,
That's okay, friend.
100%.
That's
We're
okay.
gonna win.
I agree. I that's my feeling as well, sir. But I appreciate you being here today, Carlos. Thank you very much for requesting.
Okay, thank you. You have a good day. Bye.
You too. You too. Um, people end up finding their way to our space. Look again. There's no really easy way to kind of to navigate through this, but people on the right like to accuse the left of being divisive, and I don't know how. I know it's in defense of what you see, because the more and more we see this, and I have a mutual on this app, my dude, he broke this down very, very well. He talked about how the rhetoric has changed. The rhetoric up until a month ago was about the typical MAGA, the yelling and the screaming and the Trump 2024, and all these kinds of things that we just debunk easily. Remember, I go to Right Wing Live, so you don't have to. You're welcome. Although they don't let me up much anymore, I must say. Now you see the shift. Now it's about, I was a Democrat. I've been disenfranchised by the Democratic Party. So that's a shift towards moderates, and we know the bot farms are out there. So the bots, the Russian bots, and I'll speak on Elon Musk in just a second. The bots that are out there have shifted their language, and you can see it. It's a little bit more of a soft sell. Obi-Wan talks about this a lot. How about they'll come in a little bit quieter, or their comments won't be as hateful. This is again a target, because they being the Republican machine, and those bot farms and those propaganda spreading instruments are still out there, and they will always be out there. So they're trying to find other voters for future elections, because they know that they're not drawing in new voters. And so again, if I was running strategy on the Republican side, that's what my focus would be. We have to eradicate Trump from our political speak. We need to make sure that he does not show up anywhere. He was publicly over the weekend saying that if he loses this, he won't run again. Well, that's fine. That's great. But the people like JD Vance and the people like the Heritage Foundation and Christian nationalists, they're still out there. How are they going to draw more voters? And the answer is they can't, and they know it. So that's why they're 10 toes down on this white supremacy, because they think that they can hold on to the slim minority of what they have in the electorate, which is white men. That's why the margins are so big. It's like 65-35 white men who vote Trump. It's the last holdout, the last holdout. And why is that the case? What are you afraid of? We know what you're afraid of.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, go ahead, Erica.
We do. We know. And And I just wanted I just saw a comment a minute ago, which was the weirdest thing in the world to me, which said, "Why is it all white men, running lives for Kamala Harris?" It isn't, and nobody's running a live for her. It's about people's individual political opinions, right? And this whole narrative of, I
You keep
of
talking. I'll be right back.
no, of course. This whole narrative of lives just being run by a certain kind of person. There are a ton of women on this app running political lives for both sides. There are a ton of people of color and people from minorities. There are LGBTQ people. There is an entire group of people, most of whom I'm lucky enough to be acquainted with, who run these lives. It's not just white men who are running these lives, but it's really important that white men do run these lives because they are also the primary group that are voting for Donald Trump. So those people need to see people like them who are on the other side. It's absolutely true. Anyway, while we are here, we are not far away from 100k taps. We would really like to speak to some opposition today. That's what we enjoy doing. So please, if you disagree with anything that Steve or I say, please do. Or you just want to have a conversation about the election and you are a Trump voter, please do request and come up and talk to us. We would love to speak to you.
Thank you, Erica. I played this last week, and I think this was a film that was put out by an anti-fascist group in 1947. And there's some questionable language on this, but I played this because I think it's a reminder. Because you can if you're paying attention, say you're a moderate Republican, but you feel like Trump is the only way that you can get your tax breaks or whatever that might be. You've convinced yourself that his economic plan is better, which we know it's not. You've convinced yourself that his immigration policy is better, which we know it's not. So listen to this, and then we can talk on the other side. It's only a minute and a half.
Here in America, it's not a question whether we tolerate minorities. America is minorities. And that means you and me.
This was put out in 1947 with some imagery regarding what we just saw over the weekend, and then the Bund rally in 1939 in Germany. It was shared post-Charlottesville to bring it back into the public speak.
Now, friends, I'm just an average American. But I'm an American. And some of the things I see in this country of ours make my blood boil. I see Negroes holding jobs that belong to me and you. Now I ask you, if we allow this thing to go on, what's going to become of us real Americans?
I've heard this kind of talk before, but I never expected to hear it in America.
And I tell you, friends, we'll never be able to call this country our own until it's a country without. Without what? Yeah, without what? Without Negroes. Without alien foreigners. Without Catholics. Without Freemasons. You know these things.
What's wrong with the Masons? I'm a Mason. Hey, that fellow's talking about me.
I was born in Hungary. You are a Mason. These are minorities. And then you belong to other minority groups, too. Your right to belong to these minorities is a precious thing. You have a right to be what you are and say what you think, because here we have personal freedom. We have liberty. And these are not just fancy words. This is a practical and priceless way of living. But we must work at it. We must guard everyone's liberties, or we can lose our own. If we allow any minority to lose its freedom by persecution or by prejudice, we are threatening our own freedoms.
I think that's what many people don't really understand is that, it's fine when it doesn't affect you, right? And the reason that we keep talking about this, the reason that I choose to keep talking about this is because, like I said, it doesn't end on November 5th because nothing changes for me. I'm at the top of the pinnacle in our society. A white cis hetero man in America. The only box I don't check is Christian, but nothing changes for me. But it changes for my daughter. It changes for marginalized groups. It changes for people who've been oppressed every single day in our society, and it's never going to get better unless we do something about it to make the change. Black women save our ass every fucking election. Every election. Isn't it time for us to kind of say, okay, we got you? And I think the fear for many is just exactly what I just said, is that they don't want to lose their place on the pecking order.
And it's really important to recognize as well that in terms of history, we go through these waves of people becoming more right wing occasionally. And Steve, you were talking about how in the 1930s in the US, the exact same thing happened in countries across Europe. We here had the black shirts under a guy called Oswald Mosley. And there was a big fight in a street in London called Cable Street, between the residents of that area and the black shirts, and the black shirts were told to go home. Much like we've recently had, right wing riots on the streets, and the people of those places came out and told them to go home. I will never believe that those people are the majority ever, because they're not. We are the majority.
Without question. It's, you and I joke about this, about how, we talk about the, being progressive in America, of which I am, but progressive to the rest of the world is like, wait, you guys don't have universal health care? So we get laughed at, but, and I'm glad you said what you said. There are more of us than them. They just happen to be a louder, very loud minority, that will continue to remain unless we do something about it. Everybody, please keep liking and sharing. There's a subscription goal. Please consider joining our team, and please consider subscribing to the channel. Hi, Beverly. How are you today? Beverly, are you there? Beverly Graber. Okay. Well, thank you for requesting, Beverly. I mentioned this earlier, but I think it's really necessary. I'd like to read this. This is from the History Channel, How the Yahtzees Were Inspired by Jim Crow. I think this is relevant because we hear conversations specifically about when asked, when they say make America great again, when do you want America to be great? So there are times in history, I think Trump has referenced recently 1798, because that was the time of the Alien Enemies Act, which gives the president the executive branch authority to just round people up. And that's a time that he's referenced. We hear people talking about the 50s, the nuclear family. So that was when we still, before the Civil Rights Act. So when you can look at, for anybody who's ever followed history, if for people to say, before I do that, I want to do this instead, because I think this is a better segue. I don't mean to be jumping around, but I think it's important. John Kelly, for those of you, again, who don't know who John Kelly is, John Kelly was Donald Trump's longest serving chief of staff, decorated Marine general, highly regarded, revered in military circles, and for people and military leaders across the world for his commitment to our country. So part of his recent interview, this is part of the information that I think the right doesn't like or want to hear or believe, because, of course, John Kelly is the liar and not the pathological liar. So during this interview, he was being interviewed by the New York Times. Well, I'll just let his comments speak for themselves, and we can talk about the other side. Then I'll make a historical reference.
He commented more than once that, that Hitler did some good things too. And of course, if you know history, again, I think he's lacking in that. But if you know what Hitler was all about, it'd be pretty hard to make an argument that he did anything good.
So what would you say when he said to you that Hitler did a lot of good things?
Well, I tell him that. I said, if you first of all, you should never say that. But if you knew what Hitler was all about from the beginning to the end, everything he did was in support of his racist, fascist life, philosophy, so that nothing he did you could argue was good. It was certainly not done for the right reason. And but he would occasionally say that.
What would he say when you would lay that out to him?
You just, that'd be the end of the conversation usually.
I mean, that's bad enough. But then when you start to draw historical comparisons to, first of all, thoughts on that, Erica? I think you've heard that before.
Yeah. So the thing about this is, there are some things that people say were great about the little mustache. He had enslaved an entire population of people and was making them do the work. So anything like he said in there, anything good that you can say about him is on the back of the people that he eventually tried to do away with. I think everyone knows what I mean when I say that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why we can draw these historical comparisons. And when we talk about, one of Antifa being such a triggering word for people on the right, because again, it's been used as a rallying cry that Antifa are the enemy. And I think this is, again, to draw historical context and historical connections, because in 1935, Nazi Germany, they passed two radically discriminatory pieces of legislation inspired by American laws: the Reich Citizenship Law and the Law for Protection of the German Blood and German Honor. Together, these were known as the Nuremberg Laws, and they laid the legal groundwork for the persecution of the Jewish people during the Holocaust and during WW2. When the Nazis set out to legally disenfranchise and discriminate against Jewish citizens, they weren't just coming out with the ideas out of thin air. They closely studied the laws of another country. According to James O. Whitman, author of Schmittler's American Model, that country was the U.S. Quote, America in the early 20th century was the leading racist jurisdiction in the world. Yahtzee lawyers, as a result, were interested and looked very closely at and were ultimately influenced by American race law, in particular Jim Crow. So we, as the Western society, as this pinnacle of freedom, have such a despicable and disgusting past when it comes to racism. And then when we have the Reich and Schmittler using Jim Crow's laws as a model for what they did to the Jews, I don't know what else there is to say, other than if we do not vote for Kamala Harris, this is not hyperbolic. We've seen it. We know exactly what they want to do. If we do not vote for Kamala Harris, I'm voting for her proudly, and I am honored to do so. There are other people that just might have an issue here or there. Get over it, because this is the fight that we are in. And I just really don't know if people can take it seriously enough. Let's put it that way. Sadly, because it's a clear choice. Good morning, Carrie. How are you today?
Oh, I'm sorry. That was an accident.
Okay, no worries. Have a good day.
I think they're scared of us today, Steve. I don't know why. There is someone in the comments called Poshbean who I would love to come up and have a conversation with, who has a whole lot to say in the comments. But if you want to come up and talk to us, we would love that.
No problem. Hi, Poshbean. Come on up. Hi, Nikki.
Good morning. I just want to make it aware to everybody who does not know. World War II, the 6 million Jews that were unalived, it was not just Jewish people that were unalived. It was LGBTQ people, it was Black people, it was people they saw as Marxist or against them or anything else. This was not just... You hear about Jewish people, and I am one, because and Steve knows I am not okay today. But this is not just one group of people. They went after all of the people that were not like them. So the more that you sit down and watch this, the more they are going to come to you. It was disabled people, which we've seen him do. We're watching this happen. And the more, and the people that don't agree with it, you can't just sit there. Like everybody in our chat and everybody that's in our Discord and things like that, we have all come together as like this group to stand with each other. And we need to do that on an epic basis, because I will stand for, I don't have a daughter, I have a son, but my son is autistic. I will stand for him. I'll stand for Steve's daughter. I will stand for anybody else who doesn't have the right to be here or feel like they have the right to be here. But this is not okay. This is not just Puerto Rico. This is not just Jewish people. This is not just put them all together. Every single section of people that he is marginalizing or demeaning, put them all together and see how many there are.
Steve.
All said, Nikki. Thank you.
There's a couple of people.
I have to get down because like I'm not okay today, and I'm just gonna give you guys a warning in the comments. Any hate, any disparaging things that are anything like what was said last night, he will not be the one to get rid of you. I will be.
That's why I'm not playing it.
Yeah, I absolutely not. Like, we have 8 days for this, and I will do anything in my power to make sure that him, JD Vance, the blows my mind, Dr. Phil, who was put on this planet and made famous by a black woman.
Exactly.
Like, I don't understand what's happening, but exactly. I will be damned if I am going to perpetuate this.
Exactly.
So, no.
Well said.
No. I love you. I love you guys. I'm sorry, but I want you guys to understand, the more we see it as a separate person, we keep separating them. Oh, it's Puerto Rico. Oh, it's the Jews. Oh, it's the blacks. Okay, you're right. It is. Now put all those people together, and together we have numbers that are insane.
It's the othering. Mm-hmm. You're right, Nikki. Thank you for being here. Protect your peace today, okay?
I love you guys.
We love you too.
Erica?
Yes, Nikki.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Nikki.
I love you too, Nikki. I'm sure that's what you were going to say. Can I read the Martin Niemöller poem?
Please.
Super quick?
Please.
Because people in the comments are saying, please read that poem. So this is a poem called First They Came by Martin Niemöller. It says, first they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. And I just want to, in reading that, I just want to point out to the people in here who have voted for Trump or are voting for Trump or are thinking about voting for Trump. These things that he's planning to do, or he's said that he wants to do, they're not just going to affect those groups of people. Those will be laws for everybody. So if you think that there will not be any negative laws that will affect you specifically, he's already pointed out very much that he's for the 1%. Mm-hmm. He's for those people. And unless you're in the 1%, there are going to be things that affect you. Because we know that the patriarchy, yes, it does absolutely benefit men, but it disproportionately benefits that 1% of men at the very top. They are not the ones who have to, work in dangerous conditions because businesses have been deregulated. They are not the ones who have to put on uniforms and become members of the military. It's never them.
Thank you, Cookie. For those of you who just received a subscription from Cookie, thank you very much, Cookie. And please thank Cookie if you got a subscription from her. We're in a subwave right now, you guys. It's really, really well said, Erica, because there will be no one left. So if you've made a mistake, you made a mistake, right? Just accept it, move on from it, and realize that it's not your privilege is safe. You being a YT man in America, your privilege is safe. And somebody called this out too. It's not just our daughters and our sisters and our wives and our nieces and our nephews and our aunts and our moms. It's our boys too. It's about raising them to understand that the toxic masculinity is easy. It's easy to fall into that trap, the Andrew Tate effect. It's easy to fall into the Ben Shapiro effect or the Charlie Kirk effect. That's easy. It's hard to resist it. It's hard to say, I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to defend the rights of others. I'm going to use the power of my privilege to make sure that people are not being left behind in society. And Nikki called it out. It's not. It's the othering of every group. And think about the rhetoric that's come from Trump over the last 8 years. It's been immigrants. It's been the poor. It's been the shithole countries. It's been the BIPOC community. It's been veterans. It's been active duty suckers and losers. What's in it for them? Of course, women. Of course, LGBTQIA. They want a YT America, a YT Christian nationalist America. That is what they want. They tell us every single day, every day, every day. And it was a culmination over the weekend in Madison Square Garden in New York. A reminder, the Bund rally in 1939, which was more or less the same thing that we saw over the weekend. Back to this story that I was just reading. So, in particular, Yahtzees admired the Jim Crow era laws that discriminated against Black Americans and segregated them from white Americans, and they debated whether to introduce similar segregation in Germany, yet they ultimately decided that it wouldn't go far enough. One of the most striking Yahtzee views was that Jim Crow was a suitable racist program in the U.S. because American blacks were already oppressed by and poor. But then in Germany, by contrast, where the Jews, as the Nazis imagined it, were rich and powerful, it was necessary to take more severe measures. It's the same rhetoric that we hear, the George Soros tropes, the fake news media, Lugenpresse. It's about the elites. And meanwhile, they're the ones that are in these circles. They're the ones that are taking your rights away. They're the ones that are suppressing your speech. They're the ones that are committing these crimes against children. They're the ones that are talking about freedom of speech, and literally they're the ones that are suppressing it. I hope you get it. Do you understand?
Can you reset your gifting goals, please?
I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And while we have a second, can I please ask you to tap the screen and share the mother-loving bejesus out of this live, please? I nearly did a swear and I stopped myself. So please do that. Don't forget that you can subscribe to the channel using the subscribe star in the bottom left-hand corner. It's kind of down in that direction. You can also check in as a member of the team at the top of the screen next to Fact's name. There's a little heart. If you select that, you can check in, and we'll do the rest of the bits and bobs in a minute.
Thank you. Maisha, how are you this morning?
Hi, I'm good. I am an immigrant living in the U.S. I am from the beautiful island of Jamaica. And it's so funny that when you live out of the U.S., you're sold this American dream, right? Then this year, it's so funny that the dream seems to not be here. Because why should you live in a country where nobody wants you around? People are treating you like criminals. You're called all sorts of racist words. And at the end of the day, you have to say to yourself, is this going to be our new norm? Is this going to be the environment that you raise your American-born children in? Is this going to be the country that they should go out and fight for? So besides that, I'm usually a stickler for immigration. I'm usually the person who educates, inform, and crush all immigration misinformation and stuff, but that's just not my role this morning. My role this morning is when I heard about Puerto Rico last night at the Madison Square Garden summit, and I was like, first of all, I think what we fail to understand, not we in this chat, but we in general, is that Puerto Ricans are just as much equal U.S. citizens as everybody who live on mainland USA. And I think the rhetoric is that let's disavow Puerto Rico. Let's treat them like the ugly stepchild. And let's treat them like they don't exist or they're a burden to our system. I think Puerto Rico and every other U.S. territory is literally, in my perspective, the biggest, can you say enslaved?
Yeah. You can.
Okay, the biggest enslaved people right
Yeah, no,
now in this
no
2020.
representation. You're right. No representation.
Because imagine you live in a country owned by the US. You pay taxes that goes to mainland USA, right? And then at the end of the day, you're treated less than. You're not allowed to vote for your own president because the Constitution in section 1 part something something said only 51 states votes counts, right? So your vote does not count in Puerto Rico. You're given a president. You're given people to judge over you. When the hurricane happened in Puerto Rico, it's so funny that they were only given paper towels and cynical comments. Now, in a time like this where everybody needs to come together, right? Because the world isn't doing well. Every country is just not doing well. I'm fearful what's going to happen a couple years down the line regarding jobs and livelihood. It's just not doing well overall because AI taking over, and if Elon Musk has his way, robots will take over our jobs, and we're all laughing with him and say, "Oh yeah, robots and stuff." But at the end of the day, I think Elon Musk is the beginning of the Antichrist, in my perspective.
Illegal. I mean, an illegal Elon Musk, because when he
And
dropped out of college, he did not have the rights to be here. He was at that point in time an illegal alien. MAGA, just so you know.
I know Elon Musk is a South African. I know the whole immigration process, that the fact that he will never be able to be president of this country or anything at all. But it's okay for us to emulate Elon Musk and put him on a pedestal. The same immigrant that you want to kick other people out, right? You're okay with Elon Musk because he's a whitey male who ticks all the boxes besides the fact that he was just not born here. And if we could change the constitution to make Elon Musk great again, we would. And it's so unfair. The thing that this election did, like when a house is on fire and you set the flames out, and the sad part is the smoke will forever rise. The house is on fire right now. Election day, we will set the flame out, but the smoke and the ash will live on for centuries, and we're going to breathe that air, and it's going to be toxic. When people used to be racist in their own little space and their own little time, now every unsaid word is not being said. You can't take it back. Every unsaid hate and unsaid crime towards minority groups are being done, and you just can't take it back. And the sad part is this is going to be our new reality. We have to now teach our kids to say, hey, this, you have to now look out for this and look out for that, when we should be moving forward in this world to say, oh, Jim Crow is a thing in the past, segregation is a thing in the past. Even whichever side win, we just can't bring that ash down. It's going to forever be a part of our new norm. And it's so horrible that this is what we're going to have to live with in this world. So like the whole Puerto Rico thing, it rubbed me the wrong way because
it should.
These people are literally enslaved, paying taxes towards making America great again, and they don't reap any of the benefits. And when they're at their lowest point, we're going to call them floating island of garbage, or send them paper towel and say, mop up your tears, basically. When are we going to wake up and notice that, hey, you can't be great when everybody around you is suffering? It doesn't work like that.
It sure doesn't, Maisha.
It really doesn't work like that. And it's just, in my opinion, just so sad. And then the fact, I'm going to jump right back in immigration again, the fact that they have so much fake news going on about these immigration processes, I think it, in my opinion, in any other world or any other time, it would have been illegal. It should have been punishable by law. It should have been punishable by sticks and stones to sit there and spread illegal rhetoric, spread misinformation about these illegal people. Because half of the time, people who are here, who are in sanctuary cities, they have a legal right to be here. They came through with an asylum claim, no matter how the asylum claim is obtained. So stop telling people that these people are walking through like it's a subway line and you could just go and pick and choose lettuce or tomato. That's not how it is. And the thing is, they're spreading it, they're baptizing them in it, they're putting this in their new orthodox and stuff. And it's just, in my perspective, it's just overwhelming. It's honestly, I only come on TikTok in the mornings to listen to your show. I used to come on and
Well,
spread
I appreciate that. I know we've spoken before. And Wagwan, Misha. I think the reality of what you talked about, especially when it comes to Puerto Rico, like I'm in favor of statehood for Puerto Rico and also for the District of Columbia, and because again, to your point, there's no representation, right? There's no
Yeah.
representation, and I like the way that you put it. And again, this is about the rhetoric that we're talking about othering. So now, U.S. citizens are now lumped into the same hateful rhetoric as everyone else. Garbage country, floating island of garbage, and then the people that were at that rally last night cheered for it.
Cheered.
I just want to thank you for being here, and you've always been very
It just
supportive of
set
the show.
humanity back so far. It really
Agreed.
set humanity back so far. So
Agreed.
I'm really just sad where this world is going.
Keep the
But
faith.
thanks for
8 days.
having me.
Keep the faith. 8 days. Thank you,
The
friend.
fire, the ashes will always be there.
It will. It will. We have an opportunity to try to at least make a dent in the positive direction for a change. But thank you for being here, friend. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
I've heard big tea parties in harbours work quite well when people want representation.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, how'd that work out for you? Just saying.
Lucky escape, Steve. We call it a lucky escape.
Hi, Toy. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Oh my God. This is a mess. This is a mess. This is an absolute mess. Hello, Erica. Sorry. Good
Hey,
afternoon
how are
for
you?
Good.
I have two queens on my panel at the same time. Lucky me. Damn.
I'm never usually on it this time because I'm at work, but I have shingles, so fun
I'm
times.
so sorry. That's awful.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm in pain, but it
I've
is
heard
what
it's
it
very
is.
painful. Oh,
Yeah,
get
it
better
is.
soon.
Thank you. I got the medicine, so hopefully it'll be fine. Being in New York and seeing those people waiting outside, I was just like, they had to have been busted first and foremost because there's just simply not enough people. But I hope that Puerto Ricans and Black people take stock in what happened at that rally last night with that so-called comedian talking about carving watermelon with the one Black person in the crowd, and then Puerto Rico. Like, how many times does he have to play in the face of Puerto Rican people, Black people, and other marginalized people until they see this for what it is? Like, proximity to whiteness is not going to do anything for them if he becomes president. Police are going to have immunity. If they get stopped by the police, they're not going to know if they're Trump supporters or not, and they're not going to care. And I wish that more people would, I don't know, decolonize their minds and not need to have proximity to whiteness to feel good about themselves and to feel accomplished and successful and good enough.
Toy, it's the same thing when we hear the rhetoric around mass deportation and many people in marginalized groups, in particular, our friends in the Hispanic community, because I asked this question, like, how would it work? And the only way that it would work would be literally to profile. So
Right.
would ICE trucks drive down Main Street, USA, and say there's a group of people who look like they have brown skin? I'm just going to ask for your papers, right?
And who carries their papers on them? I have a citizenship certificate and I don't carry it with me because why would I carry this with me? Because if you lose it, that's a big problem. Like,
right, but the whole point of that is that you don't have to. Due process protects you. That's the whole point. So, to your point, this proximity to the whiteness and this proximity to power, when the time comes, and Erica went through the exercise, when the time comes, there'll be nobody left to defend them. Yeah. Because of the fact that they're now part of they're now on the island, the garbage island, in the mind of the MAGA right and the Christian nationalists, right? Because they will literally, like, your papers, please. It's literally, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sorry if Kamala Harris can be long-winded in her responses. I'm sorry that you don't think she speaks with word salad. I'm sorry that you feel like the Biden-Harris administration accomplished nothing. I mean, again, flawless versus lawless. It's just disturbing. It's
It's a very
disturbing.
nuanced situation to speak about, and you can't just like blurt out an answer just because you speak fast, right?
Yeah,
Doesn't mean that you're right about anything. And that's what the Ben Shapiros and the Donald Trumps and the not JD Vance, because he's
Charlie
a
Kirk.
different type of right. That's
Yep,
that's all they do. That's what they hang on because they know that their base have the attention span of goldfish. So they're not going to be able to pick up on everything that they're saying and see it for just word salad.
correct.
They're going to think that something impactful is being said, something substantial is being conveyed, and it couldn't be further from the truth. It's actually very disappointing. The amount of people that are illiterate in this country, the amount of people that are functionally illiterate in this country is an embarrassment, and it's a very big tell as to why this man wants to defund the Department of Education.
Yep,
Because if you don't know what your rights are, if you don't know what you can fight for, then you will fight for nothing. You will just take whatever you're given,
correct.
always. And
Correct.
I personally won't stand around for it. God forbid he wins. That's just going to expedite me leaving this country. I can't do it anymore. Like I have too much anxiety all the time. Ever since this man has stepped onto the national stage, it's just been nonstop madness. You never know what he's going to tweet in the middle of the night or truth or whatever the case may be. You never know who he's going to attack next, whether he's going to Asian people, Muslim people, Black people, Hispanic people. It's just all this othering,
Yeah.
and it's allowing infighting in marginalized communities. Why are we're fighting against the wrong people, each other?
You're right, Toy. I mean, and interesting that you say that because you being a member of those groups that have been oppressed as long as America has been America has always been under pressure and always been under threat, and we know that Black women in particular are the least respected group in our and the most mistreated group in our entire system. But I used to say the same thing. I used to say the same thing. You know, if he wins, I'm out of here. And I got called out by a Puerto Rican woman actually, and she said, "Listen, we show up and vote to save democracy every time, and when he
Mm-hmm.
wins, you're just going to pull up your tent and leave? No, I
Right.
can't. I can't leave. I can't leave. I have to start to turn my privilege into something positive and effective, and I try to do that every day. And I want to encourage others, but I don't blame you for wanting to say I'm out of here. I mean, I don't blame you because every single time the chips are down, we rely on Black women to save us from ourselves.
Right, right. And overwhelmingly, they've done it
Yep,
time and time again.
yep,
And personally speaking, I'm tired. I'm not going to wait for the leopard to eat my face. It's just, it's not going to happen. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
I'm tired of second guessing people and wondering who is for or against you. Like, I was just watching Chris Cuomo, where he was like, Kamala is not Black woman Jesus, just like Obama wasn't Black man Jesus. And I was just like, bro, what? I used to rock with you on CNN. What?
I know.
So this is what? Now I'm every white person I side eye you. Every single one. I
Mm,
have to because nobody's safe on that side until they prove that they're safe.
so well
Dr.
said.
Phil, I guess we could have called that one because whatever,
Oh,
like Mehmet
sure.
Oz and so on and so forth. But
Oh, exactly. How they got their start. Right. Exactly. A Black woman. Yeah.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Just spit in her face. Cool story. And now people want her to admonish them. Excuse me, is she their keeper?
Exactly.
What is she supposed to spank them on national TV? Like, what do you want from her? I don't know.
I
Anyway,
think it's really telling the number of people over the last year who have jokingly said to me, "Can I come and live with you?" Half joking, but half not joking.
Mm.
You know, can I come and do you have room for me? Um, and that number of people is growing by the day. Um, I just don't know what to say.
Toy,
yeah.
again, this may be empty words, but I don't blame you to side eye every white person you see. You should. I don't blame you. It's much the same reason that women should always choose the bear, or should always choose the bear. And I get it. And
But I
that's
don't want to do that. That's
I know.
what's so, as a human being, I don't want to have to question the humanity of the next person because of their skin color, but I have to for my own safety.
Mhm.
It's dumb. It's just so dumb. Like the people that colonized and mass unalived and subjugated and enslaved people are the ones that are mad. What the hell are you mad at? This world has, you've created this world for yourself on the blood and backs and labor of other people, but you're mad. Be for real.
I know. Nothing changes for me on election day. Nothing.
Exactly. And yeah, nothing changes for anyone that has the right hue, even if they're in a marginalized community, because at the end of the day, if you want to save yourself, you can just rest on your whiteness. My skin is never going to change, and I don't want it to.
Well, and Toy, there's a good argument for, like, under what they're proposing. If I came to the US and happened to go and hide out in Steve's house, and even go out, be walking down the street shopping or whatever, as as a person who would not have residency and who came and overstayed a tourist visa, I arguably would never be stopped by anybody.
Nope.
No, never.
Because I have the correct skin color to just to not be part of the people they're looking at. And ironically, a large number of the people who are in the US actually illegally are people who've come on tourist or student visas or work visas and have overstayed
And came here by airplane, not by
Correct.
Yeah.
land border.
Correct.
Like that's, oh God. But
Well,
we'll
I know it
just
may
see what
not mean
happens.
much at this point, Toy, but I'm voting for you, and I wish others would. These spaces are to provide context to things for people who realize, yes, the sins of our father, no doubt about it. I can't correct the past, but I can hopefully help change the future. That's what I can do.
And I think that's all, the majority, I would say, of, I don't have the stats for this, but Black people would say, because I think that these people, these white men that are in power, they think that Black people wants revenge and not equity. If it was revenge that Black people wanted, they would have gotten revenge already.
Right.
And that's what they fail to understand. And that's not inherently what Black people, I mean, it's not a monolithic situation,
Right.
want. We just want to live like everybody else. So I'm particularly disappointed in Black men, but that's a story for another day.
Just like every marginalized group wants just to be able to live their lives. Just
Right.
literally, it's just that. It's simplification. It's the prioritization of human rights. For those of us who prioritize human rights, whatever flavor you want, we have a difficult time understanding why it's so difficult for people to lean in to protect those around them. Whether it's their bigotry, we understand where it comes from, their morality, their belief set, their bigotry, their racism. We get it, but it makes it difficult for those of us who prioritize it. For those that don't, every time you come up to it, I always feel smarter. Thank you. I'm sorry you're going through the shingles thing, but be safe. Okay, be safe.
Thank you for having me up. Bye, Erica. Have a good
As
day,
always.
both of you.
Bye, get
Bye,
well
Joy.
soon,
Thank you.
Queen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody, please gift Erica. No reason she should be at 300. Let's get that above 1,000 as soon as we can. Please consider subscribing to the channel. We're close to our sub goal today. By the way, I want to remind people that there is a fundraiser that we're doing for a member of our community who got hit with some big, unexpected vet bills. So in our Discord channel, there's a special events channel, and the information is included in here. What we're doing is kind of like a silent auction. So there's an item on the list that you'd like to bid on. The highest bidder at the end of this week will get that prize, and all money will go support our friend. If you just want to donate, these are the various Venmos and pay apps. Again, this document lives in the special events section of our Discord. Joining our Discord is free. I would appreciate you all in advance for anything you can do to help out a friend in need. You guys have always stepped up in the past, and I would have no doubt that you would step up this time too. So thank you all in advance.
Can I point out that number 13 on that list is me doing a voice recording of a chapter of a book or something of your choice. And if you make me read something dirty that gets me sacked from my job, I won't be happy.
Hi, Natalie. You got a bit of you have a bit of an echo, Fred.
Yeah, it's just going to be real quick. I'm driving. Can you hear me enough?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to say, like, listening, to the live today, like, my heart's really just, like, going out to all these people, who just feel so torn with humanity right now, and that it's just, I mean, honestly, it's a heavy weight, and I just want to let everybody know, I'm holding space. I know that doesn't do much, but I feel your pain.
Thank you for saying that, Natalie.
That's
I
all.
appreciate you. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for saying that, Natalie. Yeah, we all say that, but it's not enough. It's not enough. People that have been people in the BIPOC community, the LGBTQA community, women, the infirmed, the disabled, the poor, any group that's been marginalized, thoughts and prayers ain't cutting it. It's just not. It's always been thoughts and prayers. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to make the change? How are we going to flip the system on its head so that it works for everyone? Again, I call out the left a lot, and I did this over the weekend, and I got people said spicy facts. Well, you're going to get some right now. I'm sick and tired of the entitled sort of, I'm going to go to a rally and I'm going to share my love for and advocate for the groups that I represent, but you get cranky when it comes to election day. You either don't show up and vote, or Kamala Harris isn't your savior. Fuck you. Fuck you. This is what you're looking at. If you truly care and you truly want to defend the people that you say you defend and you go to these rallies in support of, then vote for Kamala Harris proudly, and get your neighbors and remind those others that are in your little protest circles, right? That's you on the left. A lot of people in Gen Z too, calling you out. You're showing up for this election. I need to see more of you. You want to change the future? Then don't be lazy. Don't be apathetic. Don't be all whiny and bitchy and moany. Wake the fuck up and do what needs to be done to truly say that you care about representatives in your community or communities that you say you advocate for. It's that simple.
Can I add to that, Facts?
Please.
I've seen a whole ton of videos recently from people saying that they are communists or socialists or or leftists, and they can't possibly vote for Harris because she's not far left enough for them. This is your choice. It's Harris or fascism. That's your choice. So if you don't vote for one, you're in effect voting for the other. And I will blame you if that happens. I will.
As will I. Yep.
You'll be the people I'm calling out.
Correct. We know who MAGA is. We know who they are. We know that they will follow the fascist trope down the road. They will march in their jack boots and their arms in the air. We know who they are. And you're gonna complain because you don't want us to frack anymore? I don't either. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to vote for my daughter's rights and women's rights and the rights of the infirmed and LGBTQIA and anyway.
Not voting for Harris is not going to stop fracking. In fact, if that's what you want to stop, then voting for Trump, who wants to increase all of that stuff, is not. It is doing the opposite of what you want.
That's exactly right. We have work to do, right? And we have to be able to have a fight for the future. We have one choice and one choice only, and it is 8 days, and to vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Hi, Jeff. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. I'm in Texas. I'm a YT man, and I voted straight Democratic ticket already.
Excellent.
Yes, Jeff.
Can I give you guys a little hope today? Because this has been Debbie Downer all morning. I've been listening for like over an hour. Since 2022, women have outpaced men in new voter registration by over 10%.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and women are showing up at the polls without question.
and they're showing up.
The margins get wider and wider and wider. It's a good point.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but the reality of the Debbie Downer comment, Jeff, I get it. I understand it. But we have to make sure that we're calling this out because it doesn't end in 8 days.
There's no question.
When Trump loses, it does not mean that fascism in America is going to end. It's still going to be out there. It's just they'll find somebody else to put in his place. That's why we need to make sure that we're calling it out.
I don't disagree, but I wanted to make sure everyone knows that there is still hope. I actually believe that the Democratic ticket will have a wider popular vote margin than Biden got. And my concern, of course, as everyone's is the Electoral College. I mean, it's going to be close, but I don't think it's going to be as close as all the pundits are talking about, because the polls have been skewed red for the last 3 weeks because of the polls that have come out. They dumped a lot of right-leaning polls, but I voted. Talking about everybody else to vote. Hopefully, if everybody is in their proper mind, we'll have a huge, overwhelming victory.
That's what we need. And that's what we need. We need a referendum.
Absolutely. And this whole thing about the mass deportation, it will destroy the economy.
Absolutely.
Texas will be completely destroyed. There's like 35% of our population is people of color. Can you imagine what would happen in Texas if they actually did what they're talking about doing?
The agricultural industry in our nation would crumble. I mean, the food service industry would crumble. The hospitality industry would crumble. These things are real. But again, it doesn't matter to the right because they're racist bigots. Let's be real. It doesn't matter.
Can I just point out as well, one of the reasons that a ton of these right-leaning polls have been dumped into the system over the last couple of weeks, it's done on purpose.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
And it's done on purpose, so that we can get all of these Trumpers in the comments going, he's winning in the poll. Well, no, he's not, because we know that Democrats have been underrepresented in the last few sets of polls, especially since Roe versus Wade. Those polls do not account. That polling does not account for any of that stuff. Secondly, the reason that they do it is so that when she wins the election, which they know she will do, because they know what the real numbers are, they can say, well, how did she do it? All the polls said that he was going to. It's another arrow in their quiver of them being able to say, well, there's something wrong. Trump has been setting this up since the last election. In fact, he's been setting this whole thing up since 2016.
Correct.
Since 2015. If he didn't win in 2016, it was because they had cheated. Then in 2020, what was it? He didn't win, and it was because there was cheating.
Correct.
And he's setting the whole thing up again.
That's correct. Yeah, to your point, Erica. So if we look at Pennsylvania, there hasn't been a New York Times poll dropped there in a very long time. So we're looking at these Trafalgar and these right-wing leaning Tip Insights, which are Republican-funded polls. To your point, it's not just what you talked about; it's also the money. So the closer the race is, the more money can be dumped into these states, the more the media will, the more advertising dollars will be spent. That's the whole. It's a game. I agree. Yeah. It's not as close as people want to believe. It will be close, sure, but it's not as close as people want to think.
Yeah. If it doesn't look close, donors stop donating.
Correct. Exactly. Thanks, Jeff.
And on both sides, they can elicit fear and try to stimulate people to go out.
Correct.
So
thanks for being here, Jeff. Appreciate you very.
Yeah.
Swing states that it's really trending heavily towards women showing up more, and for the most part, it's the Democrats 2-1 in some cases. Again, it's approaching a 400,000 vote lead in Pennsylvania that will be very difficult to overcome. Very, very difficult. Um, wanted to bring up my friend Tom. Tom and I have been talking a little bit with John. I joined Tom in his live last night, and Tom's got a very amazing organization that he's in support of. And thank you for being here, friend. Would you like to kind of talk about that a little bit, brother?
My friend, I appreciate the minute you're giving with me. Absolutely. Listen, if you don't mind, I'd like to just be kind of in awe of the people you have in the room, and I am an automatic and instant fan. So just to be a part of the conversation, it means the world to me because, I am down in Florida, and I come to find you are up in Vermont, and I just love to see that people are from all over the place. And in my particular neck of the woods, it's like it is as deep ruby MAGA red as you could possibly imagine. And I am surrounded by a lot of hubris and a lot of, I like to call it the Dunning-Kruger effect. There's a lot of people that have the patriotism in full swing, and we're watching something happened that it's deeply disturbing to me. And I think you can agree, my friend, because you and I are a demographic of the, I am a 55-year-old YT demographic. And I absolutely feel embarrassed, and I am ashamed of what we could call on the bingo card of the 14 points of fascism, number 5, which is rampant sexism. And I think that when I'm looking at this entire thing from 30,000 feet as a 55-year-old YT person in the Gen X realm of what we consider American exceptionalism, and even through the lens of a shining city on the hill, through the idea that Republicans once understood the values of the immigrant nation, and they understood the value of Lazarus, and they understood the new Colossus, and they understood what it meant to be patriotic. And so for me to live in this fishbowl, I have to admit that I am very much an old analog guy. I like my, 45 speed vinyl records. All right. So this TikTok experience for me was a shell shocking eye opener to the instant communication between, Americans and the world over. But for me, it basically pulled me out of a very, very dark place, because in my town, as I said, I don't have any allies. Per se. And in my local business surrounding, at my business complex, at my shop, I am surrounded by the stereotypical fascist YT male demographic. And it is very, it's a disturbing way to run a business when you particularly do what I do as a visual communications graphic artist. And
and speaking of that, Tom, why don't we talk about the Sunflower Project a little bit? Talk about what it is that you're doing in that space, so we can make sure that we can get some energy on that.
Absolutely, my friend. Listen, and thank you. Look, in the spirit of capitalism, and I guess in the face of MAGA, a little bit, because we get accused of being, socialist, communist, Marxist, all in one big bundle, and they don't know the definition of each. I am a small business owner, and an organic thing happened with my mom. She is friends and colleague with a gentleman, James Williams, who is the president of Rotary International out of Punta Gorda, Florida. And when the invasion happened on February 24th, that was the day I learned about Ukraine in a way that kind of tied me back to this country and what we're going through. And I also learned that day that the sunflower was the national flower of Ukraine through a little lady who was having an interview with a Russian soldier, that she handed sunflower seeds to the soldier and said, put these in your pockets so that when you're rotting unalived, grow sunflowers will know where you once stood trying to take our land. And I instantly gained a level of respect for that country on the world stage. I instantly thought, oh my God, they are the new patriots of democracy themselves. And they are literally standing in between the NATO alliance and the 1949 agreement that Russia is the arch enemy of Western democracy. And it all just
you want to
came
use
out.
your skills to kind of shine a light on the sunlight.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about that.
Yes, sir. It was just basically like the synergy of, well, I'm a graphic artist. I created this sunflower shirt as a visual representation that Ukrainians need to understand that symbol is in the hands of Americans. That Americans are not indifferent to the plight of Ukraine. There are global dumpster fires everywhere. So basically, the premise is that I wanted to use my business as use capitalism as a weapon. Okay, and because of my mom's connections and that we are directly connected to the largest orphanage in Ukraine through her friend and colleague James Williams out of Czestochowa, Poland. I was able to get this connection together through Czestochowa, Poland, and directly we have been able to have a pipeline where my little blue dot, my little business can offer a thing. And this thing happens to be a sunflower image, and that image is
the link to the Sunflower Project is you'll find that in the link tree that is in my bio. So the end of the day, so we're talking about proceeds. I want to make sure we get right to the point, Tom. So
I don't mean to drag that. I apologize. Well, the point of the matter, without making this too much of a salesman's pitch, this is way more than merchandise, my friend. Okay, so this is to me what I'm trying to use is the symbol of the shirt. And that we're looking for a coalition of both creators and people on this platform to show a symbol that we are paying it forward to the country of Ukraine. Okay. And in my contribution, what I was able to do in the long and short of it is donate $10 per shirt sold. Now, in the grand scheme of the business world, that's a sizable chunk of revenue. In the idea
every shirt sold through the sunflower shop. So every sunflower shirt that's sold, $10 of the sale will go directly to this orphanage in Ukraine.
Yes.
Right?
So technically speaking, there is 650 people in this room. Let's call it, let's make it 700. That's $7,000 that I would write a check for that would be wired directly to the City of Goodness. And that's what makes this pretty much uniquely special. And my idea is nothing more than a numbers game in the business world. We have an ally. That's it. That's pretty
great.
Much
I think again, the specifics are, so the link to that is in the link tree that is in my bio. And Tom is the creator of this, and it's his heart and it's his passion regarding this project. So if anybody is
when it becomes your heart and passion,
right?
When it becomes your heart and passion, that's when I've achieved my goal. When it's
exactly. So then, like we've got, Christmas is coming. We've got, it's a great reason, or just in the case of this, since we know that the Ukrainian people are some of the most valiant and bravest people on earth, and this is the largest orphanage in Ukraine. So, Tom, thank you for doing the work. Again, I'll remind people again that the link is in the link tree that is in my bio. It's the first one you'll see. It's a Sunflower Project, brother. Thank you for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
I am grateful to you and to you guys. Listen, facts still matter. This gentleman does not earn a penny off of this. All right. So I got to say, in an altruistic sense, I am grateful. I am a blue dot, and I am also grateful. So thank you for that opportunity. I'd like to be able to lean in on my community and let them know that the people of America do stand with Ukraine. Slava Ukraine, here I am, Slava. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you very much. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
It's a great cause. The shirts are fire, and let's see what we can do and help a brother out. Really help out an entire community. Everybody, please keep tapping and sharing. We're struggling. We're kind of hovering around this number here. We got to get out to the FYP, everybody. So if you guys can do us a solid and tap like crazy, I appreciate y'all very much.
I want us all to get up to do. Listen, there have been other people co-hosting in here with Facts, and he's got up to over 1 million likes. I don't want to feel like this is my fault. So if you love me, please do tap that screen. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and please, Erica's gifting number is really failing. It's really disturbing that you guys have forgotten about the amount of work that she does in this app. And I find it funny whenever I'm in spaces with Erica about how MAGA men in particular get so triggered by the fact that she knows more about our system of government than they do, which is on them. Everybody, please keep tapping and sharing.
I had to have a conversation with somebody about this yesterday, that they said to me, you think you know more than American people. And I said, I never say that. In fact, I would like to think that I don't. If I do, then that's not an indictment of my knowledge. It's an indictment of other people's.
Correct. Well said. Good morning, Sean. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys this morning?
Doing fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
Did you watch Sunday Night Football last night?
Did not.
Did you happen to see that Nick Bosa, I guess in the post game, decided to run up on camera with a MAGA hat on and flash it and then just run off camera?
I did not see that. No, I haven't even checked that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're familiar with Nick Bosa, it's not really all that surprising.
No, it's not surprising. Yeah, he's a trash human being.
Yes, and I guess two things. We've kind of talked about how YT men are kind of the last stronghold. I think that not enough attention's being paid to the fact of YT women who are out of childbearing age, and how their votes are going to disproportionately affect young women who aren't in that same demographic. I've talked about my conversations with my mom before and how, like, hey, you're voting for policies that aren't going
I'll be right back.
affect you, and those are going to affect someone like my wife and possibly other women out there, and how important that is that you don't take the fact that policies aren't going to affect you just because you're no longer in childbearing age seriously. And that was just the main thing I wanted to point out, is just that it's obviously there is a large burden that is on the shoulders of YT men out there to go out and do their part to support others, but it can't just be because it doesn't affect you, whether that's because you're a man or a woman. And
well, I think, Sean, this is the thing. Those women who, even if they're above childbearing age, have to realise that these policies around Roe versus Wade and the overturning of Roe versus Wade in many of these red states have caused obstetrics and gynecological deserts, which absolutely will still affect you if you're not of childbearing age. If you can't get care around menopause, around hysterectomies, because you have no obstetricians and gynecologists in your area, and you have to travel for 12 hours in order to find a gynecologist, that absolutely affects you. If you are not getting regular pap smears because you don't have obstetricians and gynecologists around you, that absolutely affects you. So this doesn't just affect the health of women who are of childbearing age. It also affects the health of women who are beyond childbearing age.
Absolutely. And we had to have a conversation with my mother and her father that we had a miscarriage while I was stationed in Omaha, and if we had lived in Oklahoma at the time, as we do now, like, we wouldn't have been able to get the kind of care that we needed at the time because her body didn't pass the miscarriage on its own. So we had to have a DNC, and in Oklahoma, that wouldn't have been allowed. And it's like, hey, what do we do in that situation? Had that occurred, would you have felt differently about the policies that you've either voted for or support if that would have affected, your daughter, your son's wife, the possibility of having future grandchildren, still the possibility of having more grandchildren? Those are all things that I don't think people, I think they say they care about them, and I do believe that at their core they do, but you don't let your vote reflect that you care. And at the end of the day, that's what people are trying to get others to understand, is that, they are difficult to have, but part of the reason why they're difficult to have is because we don't have them enough. The conversation should be easy to have, but whether it's religion, whether it's politics, the more we have these conversations, the more we're able to have, respectful conversations with one another, and the more we should be able to get back to that as a tenet of society, is the ability to have difficult conversations while respecting one another's opinions, as long as the stance that somebody has is respectable. And that's just what I wanted to leave y'all with this morning.
I appreciate that, Sean. I think it's a good segue. I mean, we was talking about this with my mods over the weekend. It's not about the candidate. It's literally, who are you voting for? This has been studied that the right are selfish voters by and large. They vote for themselves, their individual right, their individual freedom, their individual civil liberty, where people on the left tend to vote for everybody else. We vote for the community. I vote for my daughter. I vote for my sons. I vote for your friends and your family. I vote for marginalized groups. I vote for people that I do not know, that I may never know, but I know that they're part of a society that's been oppressed and suppressed And it's time to make it different. But I appreciate you always being here, Sean. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you. Have a good morning.
You got it. See you later.
Bye.
Go ahead.
Overwhelmingly as well, Steve, like the number of people that I've spoken to recently who are the number of people who voted for Trump, whose reason for voting for their Trump is their wallet and no other reason.
Exactly. Actually, there's even another, our backgrounds are flying because I always bug Greg and he makes these amazing ones like this one right here. You know, it doesn't seem like it would be that difficult a choice to make, right? Gas prices are human rights. It doesn't, when you look at it that way, it seems so shallow. Somebody just requested this, so I'm gonna take an opportunity here, and I know there's some guests in the box. You guys can just be patient, bring it back up. But this has been posted into our Discord. This is authored by Courtney Hood. It's about it's called for those for participating in the March for Life. I just give me a couple moments, and I'm just going to read this because I think it's powerful, and I think it needs to be said every single day. To those participating in the March for Life, first of all, good for you. Raise your voices, express your concerns, gather, make signs, do your thing. I won't call you names. I respect your right to do this, and I respect your conviction. Second, be clear with your. Think about this. At what age does this life stop mattering to you? When it's in the womb, you cry for it, you fight for it, you empathize with it, you march for it. When it becomes 1 month old, you hope the mother supports it, feeds it, nurtures it. However, you don't support the mother in this endeavor. You think she should work hard, pull herself up by the bootstraps, and get by on her $7.25 an hour minimum wage job. You vote for those who block legislation to protect its mother from violence, from making the same wage as men, from getting basic health care, from getting food stamps and support to care for it. When it becomes 6, you hope there's a public school around to teach it. Nevertheless, you vote for those who don't want to fund public schools. You vote for those who believe our schools are flush with cash, yet somehow failing. The wealthier kids that live by it are able to go to different schools. But this fetus is stuck at an overcrowded and underfunded public school, so it falls behind in reading and math. You feel bad for it. You don't march for it. You mostly blame its single mother for not doing more to be involved in its schooling. She should do homework with it. She should read to it. Maybe more, she should get a tutor. Nonetheless, she works 2 jobs, but she's barely able to get by. Now it's 14 years old. It just had its first experience with a boy. It's not sure if it was safe with this boy, and it thinks it needs to see a doctor. However, it's scared. It's embarrassed. It doesn't want to get in trouble with mom. Therefore, it looks for Planned Parenthood in its area, but they've all been shut down. You feel no empathy for it. It's now a slut to you. Should have been made better choices, been more Christian. It's no longer worthy of your support, and you don't march for it. Because you're not marching for life. You're marching for religion and righteousness and oppressing women with your outdated views on how they should behave. Therefore, it gets no prenatal care. It goes on living for the next 3 months wearing baggy sweatshirts and hoping no one notices. When its mom finally does notice, she tells it to get an abortion because they don't have the money to support another it. And because it's still a child trying to go to school and have a life. Again, you don't march for this life. You voted to make abortion illegal, and you feel good about it. You feel good with God because you saved another fetus. This time it was given up for adoption. It joins more than 400,000 children in the U.S. and the foster care system. If it's lucky, it'll only spend the average of 3 years in foster care. If it's lucky, it won't fall into the 78% of foster care children who experience some form of abuse. If it's lucky, it won't be one of the 80% of imprisoned people who spent some time in the foster care system. If it's lucky, it'll be one of the 50% of foster kids that graduate high school by the age of 18. If it's lucky, it'll be one of the 9% of former foster care kids that earn a bachelor's degree. If it's lucky, it'll be adopted before it turns 18 and it's thrown out on the street to fend for itself. However, you don't march for those lives. Now it's 18. It jumped from foster home to foster home to foster home. It doesn't have a family. It's depressed, emotionally damaged. It needs help. It could use some health care, but obviously can't afford it. Could use a job, but has no clothes and nowhere to stay. You avoid it on the streets, taking the time to take the long route to your car, hoping it doesn't stop to ask you for some change. You wish it would go somewhere else, anywhere but your neighborhood. It gets too hungry. It turns to sex work because the only option it has. It starts using illicit substances to numb the pain of the sex work. However, you don't march for this life. This life is a burden on society to you. This life is unchristian, unworthy of your tax dollars. This life should get its act together, overcome it at all odds, and become a self-made person just like your granddaddy. However, when this life has a new life inside of it, again, you'll march. Courtney Hood, January 26, 2017. Your realtor, how are you this morning? Thanks for being here.
Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
Um, gosh, I wanted to say something about something else, but that every time I hear that, it's just wow. It's just so impactful what you were just reading. And that's the thing that I've been talking about for a long time is like, I mean, so I have two kids, right? I've had to pay for childcare, and I was fortunate enough to be able to afford it, but that was $1,000 a month per kid. That's more than a lot of people's mortgage. That's about some people's rent. And then not to mention healthcare, not to mention any amount of social services, not to mention the public schools that the Republican Party is talking about shutting down, that this kid from your story would rely on. I mean, there's just, come on. It seems like a no-brainer, this election. And then the stuff that happened yesterday at that what I would call a Triple K rally, it was just insanity to me. I mean, I don't know if there's any of my Latino community in here, but like Donald Trump started his whole campaign not criminalizing, what's the word I'm looking for? Dehumanizing Mexicans, right? They're not sending their best, and rapists and this and that and the other. And now here he is, to me, I'm hoping anyway, ending his political career by saying that Puerto Rico is and I know it wasn't him saying it, but guys, that guy felt comfortable saying those jokes in that room for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Like calling Puerto Rico trash, making jokes about black men and watermelon, like just just such lack of taste. Oh my God. And by
Well,
the way, I don't know who doesn't love watermelon. First of all, like watermelon's delicious. Like I don't even whatever. But but the point is like wow, like to me he started his political career dehumanizing Mexicans, and